Hello and welcome to another edition of Motor Capital. There's the golden top of the Fisher Building. That's the new center area. Midtown is a little bit to the left, but here it's Tech Town and Bioscience. Okay, here's their logo and the symbol, and Next Energy is also here. And Burroughs, Cass and Burroughs are the cross streets. Burroughs because they had that office computer place. It's no longer there, though. We'll check that out later. Check this building out, though. That's gorgeous. Later in the program, I'll take another look-see. And that one there is styling also. Here's some big hinges. But there's an event here in Tech Town, and it's Transportation Riders United. We're going to talk some mass transit. And they got the Wayne State Research and Technology part. Detroit Soup. If you've watched Motor Capital, you'll be somewhat aware of Detroit Soup. That was last week's show. But they do good things. Here we go. The State of Transit. 5:30 it starts. I'm in the lobby just checking on here a documentary, The Great Detroit. These little scrap or post-it boards, message boards are great. And advertising and the like for events. They had a Punchki run. So, okay, welcome. These are the different people in this building. And you can lift. I've used those guys a few times. Knight Foundation, that's one group I want to check out. But there's quite a few. I'd have to think this place is close to full. And different way to present the people that are here, meet the staff. Here's the official board. They're going to have some transit awards that they're going to hand out. They have different kind of lighting up here, not like two bulbs alike here. And desk area. Now, it can be a community type thing where you can rent space and have the facilities, conference rooms, the like. I'll check the lay of the land a little bit, but here, support. This is what mass transit does, revitalize our cities. A lot of people don't realize that. They feel if they don't ride mass transit or have no inclination to, that it's a net loss for the city. They have no use for it. They would vote no on anything with mass transit. Likewise, I could look at it like, hey, I don't have kids. Why should I pay taxes for school and the like? No, you can't look at that. This is a net gain for the whole region, the whole community, whether you are for transit or have reservations, but, or for schools or not. You got libraries, you got roads, you got parks, you got everything to kind of support a region. And you might not use all of it. You use part of it. You might not go to the library. You might not have to use the fire department or the police department for anything. But it helps the whole region. Anyways, I'm not calling the action here. There's little rooms where you could have meetings or do your connections. Toolbox, so that's like a conference thing. So they came up with a neat name for that. This is kind of like a business incubator thing, this whole Tech Town. And I think there's a little synergy or whatnot where people can kind of come together and create some energy. So people posted things here, which is kind of neat. And people take it seriously. 7,000 languages. I didn't know there were that many. All right, for the knitters out there, how about it? Quit my job. Hey, I'm definitely thinking about that. All right, there are no secrets to success. It is the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. Colin Powell. I happen to know that guy. All right, some more quotes here. All right, we'll pick out a few. Be positive, focus, repeat. There's words of wisdom here. I could have spent more time, but the meeting's going to start up pretty soon. But first, there's food, too. And they have greenery. It's modern. Look at it, even the furniture. How about that? Here, a woodcut like the city of Detroit, even including Belle Isle. That's well done. And then there's South Detroit there, if you were wondering where that was. And then downtown, and then look how Grand River and Gratiot do the perfect 90. And so the street pattern of Detroit, you got Hamtramck and Highland Park. All right, values, authenticity, collaboration. There will be a test later in the program, so if you need to, take notes. But this is all good. It's a lot of times, and I'm one of the worst for this. I can say it's psychobabble and stuff, and I do the psychobabble thing a lot, basically, every time I open my mouth. But anyways, sometimes the positive and inspirational stuff sinks in or it sticks. Not for everybody, but certain things might. Here I'm looking at the food, and this is well done. Look at this. Caprese salad skewers. Yeah. Turkey and brie salmon bites. Wow. So that was the plate I ended up with. And then this guy's got some kind of gaming system going on. Yeah, he's doing the bow and arrow thing. Practicing for the next round of Hunger Games, possibly. Here, they're doing things with the entrepreneurs and the business people and creating a climate so things sprout up, the planting of the seed, kind of more psychobabble. I better stop this. But anyways, it's a good place. There's some sharp people definitely here. Talented, educated, and whatnot. And then they have this shop here, and they don't have a cashier. This is kind of like Scouts Honor kind of a thing. But they got a 24/7 thing, and you scan the items, and then you can... Oh, it could even take your fingerprint. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. Or you could swipe a credit or debit card. Okay, meeting's getting started. This is Megan Owens.
And what needs to be done to improve it. We have a great panel here today, and I'm honored that we are going to start off the evening with a special guest. Wayne County Executive Warren Evans has joined us. He has really been a great champion for transit. He's been leading the negotiations among the other county executives and with the mayor and with our Washtenaw County friends to figure out what the next steps are on transit. So I'm thrilled that Mr. Evans was able to fit us into his busy schedule and say...
We need to have about 10 times as many members if we're going to get some things done the way we need to get. But nonetheless, it's important. And we have fully behind, and has been behind forever with respect to how we approach transit. And over the decades, there have been different reasons for that. Some of them above the surface that we all like to talk about, and some of them below the surface. that we're really ashamed to talk about. But those issues are there. And we as a region are not getting any closer to the reality of being what we can really be until we do more on transit. So let me just give you a little bit of an update. And by the way, I think this idea that transit kind of stands alone in people's minds, not yours, but in others' minds, is a problem. And transit is a part of all the growth that you're seeing now. As we come downtown and we see the economic development opportunities, we see all of those things that are, in a large part, millennial-driven. And while people oftentimes think that a reason to be against transit is, I'm not so sure we want to take all these poor folks to jobs out in our suburbs. You all have heard that story before. I'm not co-signing it, I'm just saying you've heard that story. Well, there's another story that is, millennials now who live in some of those suburban communities want to come downtown. Things are happening downtown and it will continue to be that way. And so at some point, a lot of those folks are going to be faced with whether or not their kids actually stay in the suburbs. With transit, they can come downtown and go back. They can come downtown and text and do all the things that they want to do not driving. Or they can get into that issue of driving downtown all the time, paying $50 for parking by then, and taking half their time, and they're going to move down here. And so some of those northern suburbs are actually going to lose people just because of a lack of transit. I don't say that as a threat, I just say that as a reality. If you look over a long period of time, there's a movement of people to cities and away from cities, and back to cities. And that's something that we've got to look at for the regions, but the reasons, but clearly transit was a big part of it. And if we don't do anything about it, we're always going to come up short on those things. Amazon is not the last big employer that might look at this region going forward. But if we don't have transit, we're going to be worse and worse. I mean, it's not that we lost the deal with Amazon. We didn't even come into the top 20. And so when you start looking around at transit, at least as one factor, you see that's just a woeful, inadequate reality for us right now. We had a plan a couple of years ago. It really wasn't the best plan, but I don't want to blame those who had the previous plan, because at least they did something. They tried. It's always easy to look at a failure and say they should have done it differently. There's another way to look at it and say, why were they the only ones to force it and try to make it happen in the first place? So I don't think blaming anybody gets us anywhere, but I think we learned something from 2016. And the first thing I learned is we better hurry and get it done in 2018. And those folks who want to push it to 2020, I think one of the things you got to ask, is it really that you think it's more viable in 2020, or is it you don't really want to do it in the first place, and out of sight, out of mind? I think that's an honest question that we have to look at. And so, we've got a lot of players in transit. We've got a lot of things going on. SMART is doing some really great things. SMART is not an enemy. SMART's a part of a big issue. DDOT is a part of a big issue. And one of the things we have to think about is not even just the transit that we create if it passes, but the fact that we start to get in the queue for design and other federal monies down the line to really expand the system. You can't really get in line for federal money until you have something to be there. Transit to the airport and back to Ann Arbor, lots of things that wind up being light rail and other issues are issues that cost a tremendous amount of money. Let's face it, and it doesn't necessarily come out of the fare box. It's money that you have to, as a region, look at and say, this is an investment in all of us. Lots of it we'll use, but even the parts we don't use, if it helps to build the region, we're getting a benefit from it. And so that's just something that's critically important for all of us to think about and understand going forward. Warren Evans, the we, all of the county executives and the mayor of the city of Detroit and their staffs have been working on this transit plan. In April will be a year. And I honestly tell you, there has not been a day that we haven't worked on. May have been a day we didn't have a meeting, but you're still working on the plan. You're working with the consultants that we've had to help design the plan. It's not, I don't want anybody to have the impression that this is, a late start out of the gate and something yourself. You gotta make some things move. This will never be a consensus issue. Some people will vote for it, and some people will vote against it. I know that when we lost before, it was by less than 1%, and you didn't have the enthusiasm of all of the leaders involved. My common sense of it is, we win if we get enthusiastic. I'm not talking about you now, I know you're enthusiastic. I'm talking about the leaders who are going to be the decision makers in terms of getting this on the ballot and helping to stump for it. I'm very comfortable that in my county there will be people who are not for it. And that's their right as Americans, but it's also my obligation as a leader to say, I think this is good for the region. This is why I think it's good for the region. Please vote for it, and if you don't, I'm not mad at you. That's kind of the way the process goes. If we all advocate like that, my sense is it passes, and we move to the next level, which is getting this region closer to being what I think we all know that it can be, with the collaboration and cooperation that we're starting to pull together. Let's be realistic. What holds this region back, really? Education and transit. Let's fix them. I'm not going to belabor the fact that it's been a problem forever. Just, you want it to be a problem forever, I think is the question. I mean, transit has been an issue for 40 years. I don't think I got 40 more. I'd like to see something happen before my grandkids are here talking about, what all that happened. So the, quote, Big Four is seriously talking. As I said, our staff's working every day. We haven't nailed it down yet. Am I optimistic for 2018? I'm optimistic. Am I going to bet my life savings on it? Well, I wouldn't be losing much anyway, but probably not. But it doesn't stop me from being a strong advocate for what I think is important. Your agitation, the agitation from executives of major corporations, folks who own the companies that folks need to get to work and get back. Everybody needs to dig in and start applying the pressure where it needs to be to get the consolidated, I'm trying to be very, very careful not to piss my three friends off, to get the kind of collaborative decision making that says, okay, this is a plan we can live with. There are no deal breakers in here. We need to get this on the ballot soon. And the only way that's going to happen is we move very, very quickly. Because if you want to change legislation to change the boundaries, that's got to be done very, very quickly. In reality, we don't generally work that quickly. If we're going to go with the same fully inclusive regions as we did before, then let's just make it happen. And let's make sure that we're providing enough service to all of those communities to warrant the additional support we need to try to make it happen. So, thank you very much for listening to me. It is an honor to talk to advocates because you got a passion for something, and kind of what makes public service work is there's that passion to move forward, to move somewhere, to do something. So keep advocating. Please understand that I'm working as hard as I can, and I'm not suggesting to my colleagues are not doing the same. When I say we meet every day, that's all of us, not just my people. And so there's really...
team I know has been working very hard, yes. Khalil's leading the charge. He doesn't get the spotlight, he gets the critical work to get it done. So thank you so much. Since 1999, True has been dedicated specifically to improving transit. At times it has seemed hopeless, and like we were the only ones shouting in the wilderness about the need for transit. And it's with that context that I say that the state of the region's transit is improving. Things are getting significantly better. Not only, we've certainly seen some very exciting improvements that we'll hear about very soon from SMART about their express transit service running every 15 minutes, 14 hours a day, and service evenings and weekends. Critically important step forward. Seamless express to the airport. There's one easy app that you can get transit info from all of the area transit agencies. Q-Line's here, providing an attractive new option that's drawing a lot of new riders onto transit. There's a lot greater attention to public involvement. More people are getting vocally involved in transit, and I'm thrilled that the transit agencies are really not just listening, but embracing that public involvement. We're seeing some real increase in reliability and other ongoing enhancements. So all of those different areas of improvement, and the many more that we'll hear from our transit leaders shortly, that really is worth celebrating, and that is why we are here tonight. Much of why we're here tonight is to celebrate the great progress that we're having on transit in this region. But we can't ever forget how much more is needed. The reality is we invest 1/3 of what every other major metropolitan region invests on our transit system, and to some extent, we get what we pay for. That's always going to be the reality. The transit agencies are working incredibly hard but they're severely limited by the amount of funding available to them, and by geographic limits as well. And because of that, thousands of people continue to struggle every day to get where they need to go, and many more can't get where they need to go because of the gaps in our transit system. And people will continue to struggle until we make a major investment in transit. So despite these struggles, I certainly remain optimistic that it's going to happen, not the least because of what we just heard from Warren Evans, but because of the people in this room and the passion for improving transit, not only among True, but among so many of our allied organizations and among businesses and leaders.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much. Thank you to Megan, who's been fighting in the trenches on this issue for a long, long period of time. And we go back a long way. And whenever I've needed her a spotlight or something like that, sometimes with very short notice, she's never said no, so I've always appreciated it. And she's always come on and told me what she could tell me at that particular time about this very important issue, and has always been very candid, so I certainly appreciate that. And this is an issue that I've had a lot of interest in for a long period of time. I guess it goes all the way back to my childhood. I grew up in Cleveland, and my mother, I was always walking distance to the rapid transit. And as a kid, we would take the rapid downtown and get off at the old Terminal Tower, and we would get around, and it was always there. We took it for granted, and it was always an option before I started driving. And then, of course, after I started driving, if we wanted to take the rapid to go down to a football game or something, there was always that alternative. And then I moved to Washington, D.C. and finished up high school, and they were just starting the metro system there, which took forever to get built. But now it goes throughout that entire region, and I watched the city sort of regentrify itself around that metro system. Then I had the good fortune of going off to the school in Atlanta and New York. Then I started working as a journalist, visiting places like Portland and Denver. And can you still hear me? Okay, better. I'm sorry. Portland and Denver and so many other places. So I've had an opportunity to see how other cities have used transit, and it hasn't always been smooth at those places, but it's happened. And then I watched my two daughters who go off to college in Washington, D.C., and were there sort of raised to a new bar now, given Amazon, saying you're not going to be in the top 20, and that being one of the reasons. Obviously, talent was something else that was cited, and maybe even the image of this region to some extent. So, looking forward to hearing what our panelists have to say, because the big question I've been hearing for the last couple weeks now, everybody's saying, well, what's next? What's next, and where do we go from here? And hopefully we go to a whole nother level. This is your forum. I'm going to try to help facilitate it, but certainly I know that there are a lot of key players in here that have great interest in this area. We're giving some stuff away so that it can be archived in a really professional way. And we were in the section that was, I think it was around 1994 or 95. I started hosting Spotlight in 94, so it shows you how old I am. And on the side of one of the 1-inch reels, and we don't even use 1 inch anymore, that's how long ago it is, it said, the state of regional transit. So I said, okay, I guess we've been talking about this a little while. And I can't even remember who the panelists were, Paul. I'm not sure if they're still around or not, whoever the panelists were. But it showed that we've obviously been dealing with this topic for a long period of time. So we'll see where we go. Anyway, without any further ado, let me call the panelists up and give you a little insight into each one of the panelists, and then let them kick it off. Paul Hillegans. Paul, come on up. Paul Hillegans is the RTA board chair.
Thanks to Megan and crew members. You have been tireless in your advocacy, and we wouldn't be where we are, which is we're making progress without your help. I also want to acknowledge County Executive Warren Evans and Khalil Rahal, his deputy and director of economic development. And they do a great job with the resources they have. But we're woefully short, we're under-resourced, we are not well coordinated enough. The providers, for example, have been working with us on a universal fare card, which we need. But we need funds to get that done. So what is the beauty of the RTA created by state law? 4 counties, 1 point of putting something on the ballot in those 4 counties with an up or down vote with no opt-out communities, and the ability to then raise revenue and redistribute it. I don't envision RTA being a major operator. I envision us being a collector of revenue, the coordinator of services with federal and state money coming to pass, and that tells me that we can get this passed, and I hope in 2018. But what will it take? It is going to take time to work with our communities and the residents of the region to do a better job of explaining how this will add value to people's lives around the region. And it is going to take the all-out support of our regional leaders. And this is why in the past year, you may be frustrated with RTA, but we have believed that we are not going to be able to move forward with a final master plan and putting this issue on the ballot without our regional leaders being all in on a consensus. They're working hard towards that consensus. I remain cautiously optimistic that in the next 45 to 60 days, they are committed to trying to find a way to bring back to RTA the recommendations we need and that will allow us to put it on the ballot. And you can help by your encouragement of your local communities. I would say particularly in Oakland and Macomb, municipal leaders need to hear from you. It's not just the county executives, but it's municipal leaders who need to understand the importance of the future of transit in this region. Thank you very much.
Smart. I do want to acknowledge before I start my comments that our Wayne County board members from SMART are here, Khalil and Commissioner Haddis are here in the front row. We did have 80 new buses placed into service, and those were replacement buses, part of our pledge when we had to increase our millage a few years ago. Better? Okay.
Yeah, that's much better.
When we had to increase our millage, one of our top promises was, other than being in the black, balancing the budget, was to replace our fleet. So we took 80 buses this year, and also this year we ordered the last 40 of the buses that will put all of our fleet on the replacement track. So we're very excited to have reached that milestone, and we couldn't have done it without the support of our communities. We also have been installing some additional new solar shelters. You'll see our new shelters, which are kind of a steel and glass shelter. All of them now have battery packs and solar panels and lights. Those at me. So to increase safety and visibility and make the riding experience more comfortable at our busiest stops. So we're very excited to continue that. We've also started what's called the Art and Smart Initiative, our first pilot shelters in Ferndale. It's a program where we're partnering with communities to allow them to retrofit old shelters with art type stuff. So in Ferndale they did a green roof, they have a public art installation area there. It's right on 9 Mile just west of Woodward if you want to check it out. We're looking forward this year to implementing that in additional shelters and additional communities. So big kudos to Ferndale for their enthusiasm for that. We've continued our support of community transit, which has over 300 vehicles in service between vans and small buses across opt-in and opt-out areas. That's something we're responsible for in all 3 counties. We've also been working on kind of a potential partnership in Royal Oak to provide some more intra-city transit, so kind of an enhancement on top of SMART for a lot more fast service. Of course, that's frequent, affordable, safe transit. That's limited stop service on Woodward, Michigan, and Gratiot, and we have been so excited to be able to put that in place again with the support of our board members. We had great support from Oakland County Executive Brooks Patterson, Mark Hackle in Macomb, but especially Warren Evans, who was here earlier and unfortunately had to leave, but a special shout out to him and his staff. Khalil really pushed us to try to make sure we can have that service to the airports. One of our initial concepts, we weren't sure if we could do it, and they would not take no for an answer. And so a special shout out to Wayne County for really just generally.
All right, from downtown you can take a bus, a fast bus, take it down, straight down Michigan Avenue to Merriman, and then down to the North Terminal or the McNamara Terminal. Oh, I've been belly aching about this for years, and they have it. Yes.
Especially when it comes to connecting people from the suburbs to the city and the city to the suburbs, getting more people to work, more people to events, and really just improving mobility for the region. We're so excited to be a part of the solution here in the region. So for the next year or so, Megan asked us to give kind of a preview of what we're excited about coming up. Again, we're hoping to get those 40 buses by the end of the year delivered. We are working on getting some enhanced shelters, so kind of our shelter with the light, maybe with some additional features. There'll be more information coming out about those soon. We'll be making some adjustments to FAST, so for those of you who don't know, we adjust our service every 3 months. And so we're still listening. We were listening before the service went into effect. We'll continue to listen to your comments and see if there's little adjustments we can make to make the service even better. We're also excited, we're coordinating with the Amazon distribution centers in Romulus and also the one being built in Shelby Township. In both cases, we're going to be making some modifications to nearby routes to make sure we can serve those centers at all of their shift changes. So we're very excited. That's, I think between the two, it's at least 3,000 employees that will have access to those jobs on our systems. We're very excited to be working with them. And then we're just really excited for what the future could bring as far as partnerships with MDOT, with the county road commissions. We've got some great things we're working on, and again, more with the city as well. So I think I squeezed in with the 5 minutes, and thank you all for coming tonight.
You did a great job.
But I am Angelica, interim director for DDOT, and I'm so excited to be here on behalf of our department. Last year, we had some quite few improvements on our service. We actually touched 26 routes last year, and that's huge for DDOT. Previous years, we may have not had as many service changes at all. So the service changes started from improving frequencies, adding more trips, adding 24-hour service, new express routes, time adjustments on some routes, extending routes, and also pulling out of Northland was one of our major things that we also partnered with SMART with as well because of the demolition of that facility. And getting individuals to their destinations in Southfield, which is key. So to the hospital, to the college, and to other areas within Southfield where we can get them to their destination. We did some upgrades, so you have a back window, you have a back route sign, we have skylights in the coaches to try to make the ride more convenient and enjoyable for our customers. So those are some major things that we have done in 2017 in addition to hiring. We have hired approximately 20 additional people, not including drivers, mechanics, or CSAs, which we continuously try to hire, but administrative staff. So in 2010, 2012, when we had the major cuts prior to the bankruptcy, those were some of the areas that were hit the hardest. So what we did was we just chewed up our staff. So everything that our scheduling team is doing, our marketing team is doing, we're going to try to do more marketing outreach efforts in corridors so everyone can understand the routes that we have available and be able to take transit and DDOT as one of their options. So that you'll have able to upload and type in your complaints, hopefully you don't have any, on the website, but just being more customer friendly and that you all will see. Internally, we're doing multiple things as well. So I thank you all for this opportunity. Thank Megan and Truth for inviting us. And again, just partnering with our panelists is key, is major for us to all collaborate together to get this transit system to where it needs to be. So I appreciate you.
A year ago, we had DDOT, and I think the Windsor Transit was on there. Then working with a different provider to go through and get their information, which is a struggle. It's not, I don't know anything about IT, but I realize how hard this isn't just like give us that from FHWA around their advanced traffic congestion, blah, 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 technology deployment. And while most of these grants were really focused on highway congestion, using the things, we focused our grant on addressing some of the challenges that we have in Detroit, particularly around connectivity and safety. So FHWA grant process, I'm learning, is not the quickest to move, but we're really hoping to, a lot of this technology to be focusing it on transit, on DDOT, on SMART, on making buses and transit get through signals to improve the experience, to improve the experience and safety of pedestrians and vehicles. That's where we're going to be focusing as well. There are also a lot of other things going on that we didn't mention. So Lisa's here from MOGO. MOGO has been an insane success. I worked on Divvy in Chicago. Just seeing how hard Lisa's working, particularly with regards to their access pass and making sure that MOGO's open to everyone in the city, has just been completely amazing. She's just a complete rock star. Pam is here from Bedrock. They launched their autonomous shuttle this year. So there's a lot of people doing a lot of different stuff. We're just trying to help coordinate a lot of the stuff and make sure that we can be a good partner. We have a lot of stuff coming. From some announcements shortly with some private mobility providers to provide more options for people in the city to get around. To a lot of stuff in the laboratory with DDOT Smart around transit, around technology, around transit. So, it's going to be an exciting year. We're getting a lot of stuff out there and really beginning to say, how can we use everything at within our reach to make the transit work and be much more the option.
Excellent. 2018, then 2020, which would be a a presidential year, and a bigger voter turnout.
It's so hard to project how turnout will affect an election. We went into 16 thinking of.
How many of you would use it even more if it were that? Well, I've been hearing that with Uber, Lyft, and with automation of cars coming into play and all these smart cars, we may be putting a little bit too much emphasis on what may eventually become a dinosaur, and that's a transit system. Who wants to tackle that and say whether or not that makes any sense whatsoever? I love it.
I'll tackle it real quickly because that was an issue in the 16 campaign. We need a backbone system of public mass transit, but we need to do a better job. But it's clear we need to do a better job of finding partners, talking about how we're going to deal with the last mile in denser areas, and how we're going to address on-demand service where we can't have fixed line service.
Great.
I think the best example of that, which Angelica mentioned, was the Northland change. So we had 12 routes between the two systems. I think it was over 30,000 a day were using that location. And a number of people from our staffs met.
For signal priority to be given to both Q Line and all buses.
Sure, that's something we're working towards. Q Line is working very specifically on the issue with MDOT, and we're part of our grant, but working with SMART so that whatever we begin to do with transit signal priority is going to work for all of us. We get pitched by a lot of vendors to say, here's a closed system and it'll be, it'll work for you. But knowing that a SMART bus and even DDOT buses aren't just on city streets, they're on MDOT streets, they're on Wayne County streets, so all this has to work together in building an open system. I think that's something you're going to hear from us a lot as we sort of talk about technologies, making sure it's open so that we can keep building things on top of each other. Because it does no good if we're running transit signal priority for our buses, but SMART can't use it, or SMART can't use that same system once they get into the tunnel.
This question goes to Robert Kramer. Says, how did you get DTW to go along with service to the airport, considering the difficulties is in Airedale, Michigan Flyer had 2 years ago?
Well, SMART has had service going into the airport, the Route 125 to 280. They've been serving the airport for a number of years. But those are really local routes. Those are not intended to directly connect major areas with the airport. And our friends from Wayne County really made sure that this was a smooth transition, and we've had great success just picking up, without any hiccups or anything, just putting the new service into the airport. So there was no arm twisting or anything involved in that. They've been good partners, and we're very excited to be able to add this service to the airport connecting right now.
Very good. Angelique.
Long time in the cold.
Yay!
To know when it's arriving, so you can arrive at that stop at that time.
Some commuter rail service between Ann Arbor and Detroit, and I believe that Wayne and Washtenaw County want to see that in a revised plan. I think that will, in order for rail to be expanded beyond that, it will have to prove itself. This will be incremental progress over a 20-year period.
We are going up for our millage renewal in August, and really all I could answer that question to would just be let everyone know how much SMART means to you, because we certainly hear from a lot of people every day that SMART makes a difference. It certainly makes it very easy for me to come to work every day, knowing that we get people to work, we get people to the doctor, we get people to connect with their family. We help people age in place by being able to be independent in their homes. There's a lot of ways that we really make a difference, and So just continue to do what you guys do, and we very much appreciate it.
2018 is still alive because the county executives and the mayor believe that we need to keep momentum going and go in 2018. The SMART renewal would be held in August, and the RTA village, if it were to go in 18, would be in November. That only works, again, I'll say it again, if the regional political leaders are all in.
And hopefully some of your other questions will get answered in one form or another, because I know you have a lot of great ones out there. Even if we aren't giving up on RTA in 2018, are you willing to begin taking up a Wayne to Washtenaw proposal as a serious Plan B option, given the intactability of Oakland and Tacoma Union?
We will be much better served by a four-county plan, and I hope that will be possible. The challenge, if we couldn't make that happen, the challenge with the two-county plan, frankly, with the desire to have rail, is tax base and the cost of service. And whether that could be made to work is still a huge question mark, and I don't even like to think about it. I'm still focused on four counties.
Yeah, mass transit connects people too. Petite fours, I think, is the French term for these lovely desserts. So they went from the question and answer to the award ceremony.
To the other much quicker. That's why I'm very pleased to present this award to SMART for their fax service, for the work that you're doing to connect our region and to connect all three counties. So to Bob Kramer, I'd like to say thank you on behalf of TRU for developing an innovative transit service for our region. Thank you very much.
Board Member Susan will be coming up to present our Employee of the Year Award, which is one of our favorites.
Strong woman. She, the awardee at this time is Summer Woods. She was not able to be on the panel earlier, but I understand that she's arrived just in
This is awesome. It's funny because even when Megan, I call her Mago, when Mago sent me the email, I was like, what? And it's cool because, like, as you know, as Susan was talking about, I stumbled into transit. Literally, I just kind of stumbled into it. But my heart is always community driven. So to be acknowledged from Transportation Riders United is awesome. You know, during the process for us to even to be successful in the space, you know, Ruth and, you know, Megan.
Oh, this is the company that catered the thing, and they were they were good looking. Yeah, it's just like, wow, let me try one of each. But yeah, then we'll take a spin around here. Look at all that. If you have a sweet tooth, you were in heaven. Here's some colorful furniture, and look how it's adjustable. God, they think of everything. All right, so plans and pricing, desk space, traditional, all private office, daily rates. Okay, so they have all that information if you come here, or you can go to the website, techtowndetroit.org. And here it explains a little bit. An entrepreneurship hub. Yes. We need more of this. And I think this is quite successful. It's been here a few years. This is the first event I actually had a chance to step foot inside. So I'm like exploring, checking out the place non-discreetly. All right. Don't be afraid to try something new. Because when you do, you'll find doors will open. Well, that's some more psychobabble for you. Hey, this was a blue moon, a super moon, and then like later on the next day it was like a lunar eclipse. It was that triple thing going on. Here they across the street is the electric vehicle place. On the corner, Detroit Fire Department. And they have a beautiful little building there. The Golden Top is lit up a little better. But yeah, look at this. Ladder Company number 7. Engine Company number 17. Okay, one Ford place. This used to be where Burroughs was, but now it's part of the Henry Ford Health System. This was the building where I'm not even sure what happened with Burroughs now. If they got bought out or... They were talking about MOGO inside with the transit. That's part of mass transit too. Give people options and so forth. Yeah, it's like the backbone. It creates a spider web. It connects people, connects things. Every world-class city in the world, right? Everywhere. If you got a world-class city, you have mass transit. And Detroit was the last one to have the mass transit with the Q line. But that needs to be extended and continue. Here's some of the detail with that building. As promised, I went back to look at some of this. And they wouldn't build buildings like this anymore because it's just too much time and money to put that detail. That artistry, that costs money. Here it's some nice lighting. They got some different shapes inside the lobby there. 1868, that was when Wayne State University started. Industry, intelligence, integrity. I to the third power. And they have a biosciences center. And then across the way, Z's Villa. Great little place. They got, if you like volleyball, you got to go to the back there. They got a back 40, which is kind of neat. Here, the Q line. That just started up in the year 2017. This is the Amsterdam Street Station. I'm in between Midtown and New Center, and I'm going to head north and walk around and do a little urban planning. Mass transit is definitely a part of urban planning. It connects people, and then every time you have like a stop where people can get on or exit, it creates a node, and there's a hub of activity. And it just creates synergy, and then you connect the dots and so forth. Here, electric vehicle, a charging station. But yeah, people that aren't familiar with mass transit, you have to go to some world-class cities and check out how they do. Chicago and Toronto are two cities that are relatively close. Chuck Stokes mentioned Cleveland. That's even closer. See how it works there. There's the Q line moving around. Again, here's the logo for both places. And here, a train in action. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they have some artwork in the underpass area, which is kind of cool. And here, look at this regional transit system. I'm at the Amtrak station, the Detroit one. But that's a nice map. I wish they handed this out. I'll have to try to pick one up. The RTA, Paul Hillebrand or Hillebond, I'd have to look at the name again, but probably could get one of those maps. This was a super long train here. Then across the way, the White Castle. It's a landmark to be sure. Woodward, Main Street, Detroit. And they got the fence around here. And so they're doing some, there's some urban planning going on here. Not quite sure what the end result will be, but yeah, here at Detroit Hardware Company, I like their peppermint canopy. On the corner, Detroit Savings Bank. I love these old bank buildings. They're always built like a brick shit house, you know. And look at the styling there, too. It's a prosthetics place now. And then this, I always liked the top here, the Art Deco, but it's Atomic Chicken with a Mexican hat. Street tacos, okay, so they might deliver by bicycle. 5 tacos for $5, that seems reasonable. It looks like they had a little fleur-de-lis there. But, yeah, I'm not crazy about the steel grating. It's kind of like they roll up the sidewalks, and it's not that attractive. The bus service also runs on Woodward. And then this is there was a wig place that got real famous. I forget what the name is. But then this might be closed, North End Collective. And I walked across the street, and they don't have anything in the window. So it looks like they cleared this out. So sometimes things, take a while to take root and whatnot. But the Q line runs just north of East and West Grand Boulevard. Here, look at this, Stevie Wonder Avenue. God, that train's still moving. I think this is another one, actually, but Millwood Apartments and a little urban artistry. And this is behind the castle. And they have veg-tastic sliders. So I was looking at the combos and so forth. I wasn't ready for a combo. I had a little bit to eat there at the Transit Riders United thing. They had a nice little gig going. But I haven't had sliders in a while, so I ended up picking a couple of sliders up, and that's exactly what they call them. I said no pickle. Here, again, they got the fence. It was a Caribbean place, Woodward in Baltimore. And there's the full moon. The full moon. Well, when was the actual time? I forget now. Born in Detroit. Okay, well I have just a few minutes left to round out the top of the hour. This was the Friday, and we had like a weekend of snow activity. This was our big bomber of the year. So February 9th, Friday night. And the bird feeder needs filling. So I got my bucket of bird food. I just take it out by the bucket full. But yeah, the neighborhood takes on a different look when it's in the wintry scene. And then I always, as a kid, used to look up at the street light. And when I saw this kind of action, I'd say, yeah, and hope that we wouldn't have school the next day. So it's going pretty good. But this is a Friday. I think the kids actually went back to school on Monday. But usually during the course of the year, they have a few snow days or too cold kind of days. All right, I filled up the bird feeder. Something's apropos about this, but this show is, or could be said, is for the birds. But I just have like 1 minute left. And here, some more psychobabble, but this isn't me that's doing it. An idea is formed in our head and comes from the heart and is crafted through our hand. We are designers. Each of us can make a difference, and together we can do great things. I'm going to change this. Watch what we, operative word, what we do. We, as a group. We can do a lot. And so that's... Everyone needs to be a piece of the puzzle here. And get the region together. Mass Transit's going to connect everything. That's why, and then they were talking, they need to get Mark Hackle on board. That Gratiot run runs right up through Macomb County. and then the Woodward line would run up through Oakland County. We just need to get them on board. Folks, thanks for watching. Have a great evening. Good night.